ladies and gentlemen. It's a great privilege and honor to be in front of you. My name is Kevin Ripke, the Regional Director for South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. And for those of you that I haven't had the privilege of meeting last night on last night's fantastic cruise around Dubai or previous sessions, please make yourself known and introduce yourself. And I'll try to meet as many as possible. So thank you very much for arriving on time this morning. We have a jam-packed agenda to get through. We've got a lot of speakers that could all be keynote presenters in their own right, but they are maybe keynotes here. They're going to sit on panels, and in any event, will be full of knowledge and wisdom for us all in these interesting times that we find ourselves all in at this current moment in time. With that in mind, it is a busy time for the city. So last night just concluded the Cricket World Cup, which brought in a lot of international visitors in order to kind of know about the sport and can commiserate perhaps last night with the results. My condolences to the Pakistan delegation. It was a great match, certainly some great bowling, but maybe not the result that you wanted. And the World Cup starts next week, and as you can see, the theme for this is filling the World's Cup with U.S. soy. So for those of the countries that are represented next week, good luck to you all. And if you're staying through in the city, please make sure to enjoy the city. To that end, we've got some brochures that you can take a look at with various things you can do within the city until your time there. And then, of course, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix is in town this weekend, starting on Thursday or Friday, I believe. So, mobility has ravaged the world right now and is currently doing so. There are currently 27 conflicts in the world, despite the fact that the Russian invasion of Ukraine is getting all the headlines. There are actually 27 conflicts ongoing right now. And I think what that's done is that's brought people to understand the importance of reliability in the supply chain. So a reliable supplier, I think, has been discounted for the last 25 years. And I think going forward, a lot of people are understanding that having reliable supply chains is of critical importance. I'm cautious, though, whether or not people will have a short memory about this. Once things normalize, or hopefully once the situation improves, goes back to normal, that people will forget the importance of having a reliable supplier for your food security and nutrition security needs. So please don't forget the importance of having a reliable supplier and understanding the value that having a reliable supplier comes with. Last but not least, innovation. So innovation comes in many forms, and innovation has many ideologies and many adaptations and many iterations. But I think, interestingly enough, we've seen who the true innovators are in the world. What do I mean by that? So traditionally, innovation has been a topic that, for whatever reason, has been largely monopolized by in terms of conversation at least, it's been largely monopolized by the tech sector. Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Microsoft, Google, so on and so forth. But look what's happened to the tech sector in the last year. When crisis comes, geopolitical rises, these type of companies and stocks have been decimated. NASDAQ is down 33% year to date. NASDAQ is kind of the core encompassing stock sector that encompasses the tech sector, or stock index that encompasses the tech sector. Compare that to the Dow Jones Industrial Average, down almost 7%. So the importance, when challenges arise, when crises come, the importance of food, feed, fuel, fiber really comes to the top of people's mind. Those are really the adults in the room, I think. And so when people are looking for true innovation over the long-term horizon, people are looking at these sectors to really lead us through and to take us to more prosperous times. We've seen the collapse of a fraudulent cryptocurrency exchange.
the last week. Again, we're now seeing who the real adults in the room are. But even within food, feed, fuel, fiber, fuel sector, as we'll talk about more, is full of instability itself, is full of multinationals that are challenged with government intervention. OPEC itself is a challenging organization to deal with. And so really that comes down to food and feed, in my opinion. So the adults in the room, literally and figuratively here, but also globally, are the food producers, the farmers, poultry producers, aquaculture producers, dairy farmers, etc. Those are really the world's adults right now as I see it. And so think about that in terms of inflation and invasions. When you're dealing with your governments, the real leaders of the world and the real adults in the room are the food producers. And so use that to our advantage when dealing with issues of food inflation, food chain, supply chain, food security, that the real leaders of a country ought to be the ones which produces food. In terms of innovation, I would like to draw attention to an interesting, innovative program that we have, and that's the Right to Protein campaign. We'll be hearing more about the Right to Protein campaign a little bit later. But I think the Right to Protein campaign kind of encompasses all three aspects of which I've just talked about: inflation, invasions, and innovation. Making sure that you have supply chains dedicated towards feeding the people, but understanding that food security is more about just filling a person's belly. It's about nourishing a person's body. The importance of protein is now being understood on a level and scale we've never quite understood before. The importance of protein, the macro ingredient like protein, as well as the micro ingredients that which encompasses, are just as important, if not more, as the caloric intake that which a person's stomach may actually take as well. We invite you and encourage you to get involved in this program. If you'd like more information, please reach out to myself. She's in charge of our marketing efforts here at USEC, but specifically today she's going to be talking about our sustainability programs, which is certainly an area that we are extraordinarily proud of for the reasons that Diva will be talking in just a second. So please help me welcome Diva Yanuli back to the stage. Thank you.
I'd like everyone to give a round of applause for Kevin Roepke. Without him, this event team couldn't be here. Thank you very much. So, my name is Diva Yanuli, and I'm the head of U.S. soy marketing for USEC in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa region. We're bringing together U.S. soybean producers, commodity shippers, merchandisers, allied agribusinesses, and agricultural organizations to optimize the utilization and value of U.S. soy in the international markets. And I'm excited to be speaking to you about sustainability. So after this presentation, I'm around all day. Feel free to reach out to me. And before I begin, I'm just going to play a quick short video to summarize the key takeaway from today's presentation. Can we press play?
Rising population, changing climate, and growing consumer consciousness is adding new pressures and greater demand for sustainable nutrition and energy. Your customers are demanding more, and we're here to help you deliver. U.S. soybean farmers grow and develop sustainable solutions to today's biggest problems, producing feed, food, and fuel for a growing world, and preserving the planet we live on for the future. We're committed to leading on sustainability. In fact, U.S. soy has the lowest carbon footprint when compared to soy from other origins. Since 1982, U.S. forest land increased 2.1 million hectares, while cropland decreased 21.3 million hectares. We're leading by advancing key UN Sustainable Development Goals, a shared map for peace and prosperity now and in the future. Our story is one of continuous improvement. Since 1980, U.S. soy farmers have significantly improved resource use efficiency per bushel, while increasing soy production by 130%. We won't stop there. U.S. soy is going further to deliver sustainable solutions for you your customers, and the planet.
What is sustainability? Just by a show of hands, can you raise your hands if you've heard the word sustainability before coming to an event? Great. So in short, sustainability means making choices today that will positively impact the planet tomorrow. Whether that's staying at sustainable-based properties, whether that means you're using reusable bottles, or you're taking reusable bags to go do your shopping. And then on a more sustainable development, things that you may have seen on a bigger commercial level are wind energy, solar energy, crop rotation, which we heard a lot about yesterday, and green space. So I'm pleased to be here with you discussing how in the U.S. our farmers are putting sustainability front and center and why. Sustainable farming practices are foundational to the growth and production of U.S. soy. So I did a bit of homework, and I found this a report from First Insight and Baker Retailing Center at the Business Wharton School. And they surveyed consumers on how sustainable practices are impacting shopping habits and purchase decision, and results pointed to a growing adoption for sustainable purchases, especially within Generation Z. And those are generations, years of individuals born between the years of 1997 and 2012. Gosh, that makes me feel very old now. I thought millennials were the new thing, you know. Now we're Generation Z, and then Alpha, I believe, is the next one. And these purchases at Generation Z are actually influencing other generations, older generations, to turn towards sustainable practices. And this results sort of gave away three sort of key takeaways. So Generation Z shoppers say sustainability is more important than the brand name when making their purchase decisions. Generation Z influence over the Generation X parents, so I guess majority of you here, showed a significant increase over 2 years ago on preference to shop sustainable brands and willingness to pay more for sustainable products. And then the third sort of outcome is the older generations are somehow disconnected with Generation Z and their views on sustainability. So this map is also from the same source. It's just showing you where these Generation Z, the population is. And as you can see here, India, in this, for our region that we cover, India is home to the largest Generation Z in the world. In 2019, India's Generation Z population reached 472 million, the population, and probably has grown by much by now. So this is just showing a map of how the population has increased, and their population has surpassed the millennial population. I like this slide, just sort of gave a whole thing on, environmental concerns make sustainability a global focus and an urgent common goal. There's a growing demand for sustainable brand values, products, and practices. So there are trends you'll see on the labeling, your bar of chocolate that you're purchasing, and so on. And also clothing, like it's sourced from a sustainable cotton field, for example. Just another, two things. It's 3/4 of Generation Z consumers state that sustainability is more important to them when they're making their purchases decisions. So here you can see this 75%, the green is on sustainability, and the brand name is sort of a very low priority. And you see the baby boomers, sort of that trend just getting higher on the sustainability brand labeling. Again, here just to summarize, is consumers are willing to support the CPG brands that promote sustainability as well as Generation Z. So why is this important? These are the future. The Generation Z and generations coming after they're the future. And it makes sustainability a very important topic to talk about, even though probably most of you don't agree with some of the practices. I just urge you to just listen in quite carefully for this. The Natural Resource Conservation Service is a permanent agency in the U.S. Department of Agriculture. It's comprised of technical experts working to advance scientific and understanding of erosion processes and to develop effective conservation practices. U.S. soybean farmers have a long history of creating and participating in programs to help preserve wildlife habitats and improve biodiversity. You have heard from our grower leaders They employ strategies like conservation tillage, crop rotation, cover crops to maintain soil health, which we discussed yesterday, and maximize the consistent quality of their harvest. And we saw like really fun, cool tools, the GPS-enabled tractors, the drones, satellite imagery to help U.S. soy farmers produce more soy with less land. Some quick images. These are on the very left is the cover crops, no-till. No-till is when the soil is not tilled prior to the next year's crops being planted, which helps with the percent soil erosion and the health of the soil. Here we're looking at grass waterways. We saw this on April's farm. She showed like the two greens with that land as an example on the Conservation Reserve Land Program. And we've noticed huge impact on these type of practices. U.S. farmers have seen drastic success since the 1980s. These are some of the few. 35% of land being less used and 41% fewer emissions, just to name a few. And we're working to ensure that deforestation is not an issue in the United States. The USDA Farm Program provides strong protection for the wetlands, the erodible lands, and also grasslands and forests. And from the video that you've watched, we have actually gained forest land in the last 100 years while reducing our farmland in the past 50 years. Another proof point of U.S. soy's commitment to sustainability is that the USDA has dedicated about $60 billion on conservation programs. And 37% of that land is devoted to the Conservation Reserve Program. So why do we care in the U.S., for example? As we all heard, most of the farms are generational. And each Stan, we heard you with your grandkids. We are trying to ensure that that land is healthy, safe for the future generations to take care of it and to help continue feed the world. As I mentioned, some benefits of adapting sustainable ingredient sourcings. It can improve your brand reputation, can help retain that Generation Z staff, meeting the expectations of stakeholders and stockholders, just to name a few. And if you don't know, more than 75% of global Fortune 500 companies publish sustainability reports. And now, I'm not sure if you've seen, this season is mandatory ESG reporting, the environmental social governance. And 25 countries have mandated participation in this. So there are US, the UK, countries in EU, and for Asia would be Malaysia. So this is something serious. So hopefully it goes from 25 to maybe 60 countries in the next few years. Have you all seen this map here? This blueprint of the United Nations goals published in 2015. Sort of a blueprint, a common language to discuss these aspirational goals to end poverty, protect the planet by 2030. So if you do the math, if we reach 8 billion people, I think today, if you do the math, in the next 30 years, we will have added 2 billion more people on this earth. So that's more than 182,000 people to feed, clothe, and fuel each day. So the 17 goals sort of allows everyone, whether you're a student, a business, an organization, to come together and have a common goal to discuss about. In the U.S., we sort of looked at 3 material aspects, the environmental, social, and economic. And then what we did is we took those aspects and we mapped it to the Sustainable Development Goals. So as you saw, a full circular advantage of these 5 goals, clean water and sanitation, climate action, life on land, all reach the goal of zero hunger. Carbon footprint is a hot topic. People want to understand now their environmental impact of the products that they are using. The next few slides, I'm going to share with you the carbon footprint of U.S. soy for the Bangladesh market. So we asked Blom Consultants to do a study for us, and the question that has been asked is, what is the environmental footprint of U.S. soy compared to other sourcing countries? So this is showing you the land use change of carbon footprint for soybeans. We're very proud to say we're the lowest. Again here, this is U.S. soybean meal crushed overseas in the Bangladesh market. Again here, the lowest, whereas our Latin American countries are quite high. And again, lastly, this is soybean meal crushed at the market. So, if you don't understand charts and graphs, some key takeaways for soybean cultivation: land use change has high impact on global warming. According to 2017 National Resource Inventory Summary Report, we have seen a net increase in forest land and a decrease in cropland between the years of 1982 and 2017. And as the slide illustrates, we have increased 2.1 million hectares, and cropland has decreased by 21 million hectares during this period. I know many of you probably heard me speak, but do you remember the U.S. Soy Sustainability Assurance Protocol? So this is a sustainability scheme, for those that don't know, that has been designed to meet the guidelines of the international market. So it looks at the U.S. production and aggregate, and it includes third-party audits by the Natural Resource Conservation Service. So annually, there's about 20,000 farms that are audited annually for this. And we believe that the underlying process used by U.S. producers sets a gold standard, and the SSAP provides documentation and verification of those great practices. It has been accepted by various groups around the world as a means of verifying sustainability. We're actively involved in groups like the Field to Market, the Consumer Goods Forum, and others that promote sustainability that protect the earth and our ability to feed a growing population in the years to come. The SSAP consists of 4 directives. All 4 directives have a link back to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Things like biodiversity and high carbon stock, production practices, public and labor and welfare, continuous improvement. So these are rules and regulations as well as sustainable practices that make up the SSAP. You've seen real images of a farm, so I thought put a little cartoon image of a farm up here. It's just sort of showing you sustainable farming practices, things like water storage ponds, irrigation, cover crops, terraces, areas of land that's taken out for the reserve program. So this is just to give those who don't know a cartoon, a different visual for a farm.
Some days the farm is a cartoon.
Yeah.
Or a circus.
So using 2000 as a benchmark, U.S. soybean producers should be able to achieve these goals in the next 3 years. So we aim to increase yield by another 10% by improving the adoption of narrow rows and cover crops, reducing soil erosion by an additional 25%, just to name a few examples. And you can see the strong environmental impact made by U.S. soybean farmers' efficiencies. Again, crop yield has gone up, reduction of soil erosion in tons per bushel, greenhouse gas emissions per ton production also has decreased. So when this was rolled out, the SSAP, it started 2014, about 7,000 metric tons were being verified sustainable. And look at this jump here. We're over about 41 million being verified sustainable. So this is showing you how serious sustainability is. Here, many of you say, oh, well, we don't need sustainability in our region. I beg to challenge you. So in South Asia region, the exports have been around 2 million here, and then verified sustainable at 28%. So this number is going up here. So I commend you for that, by the way. Some key achievements for the SSAP is we've been recognized by the Consumer Goods Forum, as I mentioned, by the Tokyo Olympic Procurement Committee in 2020, best aquacultural practices, PFAC, just to name a few. So the certificate, here's an example of what the certificate looks like. We're proud to say as of this summer, we can pass it down now 4 levels. So prior to the summer, it was 2 levels. So that gives your purchasers a bit of a competitive advantage over their competitors on the market. And if you have any questions on this, we have full websites on this, and it's just sort of shipment verified that it is sustainable. It is also a few things to note. It's free. We're not charging for a sustainability certificate. It is free, and if you can get your hands on it, or if you've never heard about it and you are buying from the U.S., their soybeans, I request for you, whoever you're dealing with that trade, ask them for this certificate. It's available 7 days before and 60 days after your shipment. Like I said, it's available to U.S. source and shipped soy only. And the website has shipment report feature if needed. There's some caveats as well, but generally this is made widely available. And if you do that, since 60% of your total imports are coming from the U.S., you get to use this beautiful logo. And I know Valley Forge, I'm not sure if you're in the room, I see him sitting over there. We've discussed about this, and he's sitting on the fence. So if this third or fourth time I'm giving this spiel to you, hopefully we get signing and moved away on this deal quickly. And it's pretty much you just go on a trade license agreement, and we're not going to be a police with the use of a logo. And we've seen it in many countries being used, which I'm going to share with you in the next slide here. So we have some, oil products, feed products, tempeh, tofu. For those, especially in India, who are making tofu, this is one day, hopefully, we get to use this logo in your country. So that's just pretty much to, it's a continuous improvement sustainability. And with that, it's going to take every one of us focus on this mission to make the impact we desire, the impact we want. Sustainability matters in every aspect. It drives your business decisions across the agricultural value chain, from the farm to the fork, and everywhere in between. But also, it's going to set the stage for global prosperity, growth in our food security, most importantly, growth in our global economies, and drives us to focus on innovating and to consistently improve. It's a continuous improvement. It's not one day this is what it is and it has to be this way. It's something that we are serious about, and our farmers here are deeply committed, and in the U.S. are deeply committed to that mission. The U.S. soy embraces sustainable agricultural practices to meet today's global need for soy products without compromising the ability for future needs to be met. U.S. soy is a responsible choice, and on that, I would like to thank you very much for allowing me to present. And please do connect with us at ussoy.org, usec.org, or if you'd like to learn more specific questions on how it's actually done on farming practices, we have great experts who can provide that amongst their conversations from yesterday. So thank you very much, and I think, thank you very much. So with that in mind, if I can get 2 chairs, and if I can get Mr. Qasim Shah virtual, please, and if I can call Mr. Sanjay Sethi while he's coming up. He's the executive director at the Plant-Based Food Industry Association in India. Can I get Mr. Ananta Amit on stage? He's the International Green Building Expert, US GBC faculty lead. So while they're pulling him up, let me just ask both of you, and then if Mr. Shah, if you can sort of chime in on this. When did you hear about the word sustainability, and why did you decide to get involved?
It's a very funny story. I moved from Pune to Dubai, and my boss gave me a designation sustainable projects, director sustainable projects. I asked him, what do you want? He said, sustainability seems to be a buzzword, and you are the only guy who has worked in agriculture for 30 years, and you have not done one thing. You have done multiple things. So you are the most eligible to understand where the sustainability will fit. So when he was saying sustainability, he meant CSR. So I said, but even I don't know much, but what is your motive? He said, all my bankers, they are pushing me and they are telling me, are you implementing sustainability? And I don't know anything about it. So it was pushed by the investors. So he sent me to Yale to do a course and also gave me the job. And that started my journey. So I was a student and I was also an implementer. So I knew that if there is a $3 billion company and if I have to implement sustainability, I have to start from the top. Because first the chairman has to understand what exactly it is. And that's how we convinced him to become a member of Global Agribusiness Alliance and World Business Council for Sustainable Development, and that's how our journey started.
Great, thank you. Mr. Kasamsham, when did you hear about the word sustainability? Why did you decide to get involved?
My story is a bit different from what has been narrated on my predecessor. I actually started working back when I was a university graduate. We undertook one course that was about the sustainable agriculture. And when we talk of the sustainable agriculture, this was pretty much of the organic agriculture. So most of the people even today confuse what is the sustainable agriculture, what's the difference between the organic agriculture and what's the sustainable agriculture. And then I was fortunate that I started working with the Policy Institute that was named as the Sustainable Development Policy Institute. And that's how I started working on the issues of sustainability, which is not just, and I would reiterate here that it's not just the organic farming, it's more about the precise use of the different chemicals as well as the soil environment. And we can, in pretty much in today's world, can name it as the precision agriculture, where we not just talk about the use of chemicals, pesticides, and the technology, but also how we can get an optimum output out of it. And I stop here. Thank you.
Thanks. And Mr. Ahmed?
Thank you. I always love to talk about my experience. I was in Canada for a long time, and I was doing real estate development. And in Canada, if you do real estate development, you have to be a compliant building. And they practice sustainability big time because the energy used and waste management, water management, Canada as a whole, policy-wise, they like to have it in a sustainable way. So I learned that from doing that development. Subsequently, in 2010, I had to go back to Bangladesh to take care of my mother, and I had to stay there to be with her. At that time, I was involved with the project. It's a commercial project in the Dhaka city, and they want to make a green building, which is a acronym of sustainability for the buildings. So I involved with that. In the process, that building that we had converted to green building process, it's saving compared to the next building almost 44% energy, 60% water, 95% waste reduction, and so on. That made me really interested on this, because in Bangladesh, the energy crisis was very high. So if we can reduce the energy use of all the buildings by 10, 15, 20%, our problem will be solved. And that moment I started learning about it, and become USGBC AP, Accredited Professional by United States Building Council. And now in Bangladesh, there's so many green building happening, and this is my journey. And that brought me here today.
Great.
Thank you.
And while you have the mic, so what concept is sustainability based on?
Very, very important and fundamental question. Sustainability based on 3 pillars. We all know this. It's have to be environmental, it's have to be economic, it's have to be healthy of the people. So understand this, that is this 3 pillars, if we manage equally, not emphasize it one or other, then we can have a very good development. Because development gonna happen, because people moving forward, urbanization gonna happen. But how we gonna develop is the key. So sometimes people ask me, this concept, green building, this costs too much money. No, it doesn't. It should not cost you anything. Like if you think about green building concept, the way we do it, the half of the point out of 110, 55 point has nothing to do with the building. It's to do with how you operate the building, how you manage the building, how you manage the water, what plant policy you have for purchasing, what plant policy you have for pesticization, what plant policy like land use. We use all of them. So when you talk about the building, it does cover everything in this 3 pillars. have to be economical. The third, last one is health of the people. How is the people inside the building is feeling? Is they healthy? The light is good, the air is good, the sound is good, dust is there, are they comfortable? So if they're not comfortable, then you're not going to get a productive workforce. So that's very important. I'll talk that in later, little more.
Thanks. Mr. Qasim, how are countries like Pakistan and the rest of South Asia factoring in sustainability towards ending hunger?
So I will take you to the history here. That it was not long ago, in 60s, most of the South Asian countries used to be net importer of the food. But with the advent of a green revolution, the situation changed in most of the South Asian countries. And then they started producing a lot of food domestically to mostly meet the needs of the people and the populations there. But however, with the advent of the green revolution, the injudicious use of the chemicals, synthetic fertilizer, pesticides increased, which has created a problem at the later stage, and which we now are facing today. So, to me, my predecessor said that sustainability rests on the principles of socially, economically, environmentally, and healthy. But to me, it's more the social development, and that is something where we need to focus today, because the development which we are seeing today, if it is socially not acceptable, perhaps it's not going to take us anywhere. So, it's not just to meet the needs of this generation at the cost of the future generation needs, but also at the South Asian level, if we see, I will again take you to the number that South Asia is currently housing more than 330 million people who goes hungry to the beds every day. Still, agriculture is the mainstay, where 17% contribution goes to the GDP, and more than 40% of people are employed in agriculture. So changes in agriculture from the traditional, the green revolution, agriculture which was invented by the green revolution, to more precision agriculture, which is the judicious use of all the inputs as well as the natural resources available, perhaps the government needs to take a decision now. And most of the countries, they have started some, in bits and pieces, not a holistic approach has been taken as of today, but in bits and pieces they have started experimenting different things today. And from the precision agriculture, I don't mean, again I would emphasize that I don't mean that it's the organic agriculture, because some of the countries in the region has fallen prey to this notion that they wanted to stop the use of chemicals and the pesticides and the fertilizers, and they stop the import even. And that has created not just the food security situation, but also some countries have gone bankrupt in the region as well. So to us in the South Asia region, to achieve the sustainability, perhaps the best way is to look into the framework which is given under the Sustainable Development Goals, and more precisely the government, the SDG Goal 12, which is basically to ensure the sustainable consumption and production, and the targets identified under it are basically the 11 targets. They provide a framework which we can use basically to return to achieve the goal of sustainability at the regional level as well as at the national and sub-national levels.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sethi, how do you think sustainability and plant-based foods are related?
Plant-based foods, as we all know, they replace the animal sources of foods. Sustainability is a much broader concept where we talk about not just all the food security and land degradation issues, but we talk about almost all the SDGs. So one of the SDG is life on land. So when we say life on land, it does not mean that we take care of the chicken and then later on we kill it and we eat it. So it means that we find out that can we have ethical issues to our food? Can we remove animals out of the food value chain? Is it possible that instead of first feeding to the animals 9 kilograms of food and then getting 1 kilogram from there, is it possible that we avoid the land degradation? Because the the agriculture as usual. You showed a picture about no-till. Why did you show it? Because you understand that the agriculture as usual, the normal tilling itself, which pulverizes the land, it brings the moisture out on top. When it brings the moisture on top, you don't only lose the moisture which you can replenish, you also lose the microbes, which are the friendly microbes. So when you lose the microbes, you put more fertilizers. When you put more chemicals, you kill more microbes. When you kill more microbes, you are into the downward spiral. The only way you can get out of it, India is probably at the top of the problem of land degradation, because all our forest we had cut about 100 years ago. Now there is no much more land available. Whatever is there, we are already farming. If the today's consumption of meat, which is about 5.5 kilogram, which is compared to the world average of about 50 kilogram, if it continues to rise, that means we will need more fodder, but there is no more land. And if we do more fodder, that means we will pulverize more land. And the normal agriculture means more water, more chemicals. All this would mean that we are going back, we are becoming poorer. The smarter way would have been that we should have fed to the humans directly. When you do this, you save so much of resources. By one account, it says there is enough food available, the capacity that we have, we can actually feed 10 billion people. But today we have become 8 billion. That means if everybody was to go through by removing the animal sources of agriculture. See, the animal sources of agriculture is so strong. Like most people, all of you, your economic reason to be there is because your customers are the animal sources of agriculture. So naturally, because you have economic reasons, you will have more sympathy for that value chain. But imagine if plant-based had come 50 years back and it was stronger and we were your customer. Today we are nascent, we are close to zero. But if we were your customer, your emotional support, your entire support would have been for us. So that is why the plant-based, when it becomes more and more mainstream, it would ensure that we will actually forget that there used to be animal agriculture. It may take 100 years or 50 years, but we are getting there and we are becoming more sustainable.
Thank you very much. Mr. Arnada, how can this green building concept help sustainability within the soy industry?
Yeah, that's the question I was waiting for, really. Okay, I tell you, now we saw that US are practicing sustainability in their farming process. But what of the building? All the buildings involved in the process. Because all the factories in the building, all the offices in the building, all the people lives in the building. So this is called green building. So the green building concept can help you further to reduce your cost. How? Each building that go through this comprehensive checklist of LEED can save up to 15 to 40% of energy. That's a real life experience. 15 to 40% of energy you can save running the building, right? You can save 50 to 60% of the water of domestic use, which we use. And you can manage your waste. You can have a planning policy to make your purchase right. You can have plan policy to motivate your supply chain to do it right. And most of all, this logo, LEED logo, is a symbolic to the sustainability. And I see that USA has so many logos, but I think the LEED logo can add value to that because it is very comprehensive. It's talking about everything in the building and around the building. Because 50% of the point is related to the buildings and 50% point is related to the location, community, transportation, carbon emission is all that. Top of that, it doesn't cost you that much. The cost of green building, whatever it is, it should be coming back less than 3 years to your pocket. My job is to give you that information, give you that data, give you that analysis. So I request all of you to pay attention how to improve your bottom line. And it will also going to ensure the health of the people that works in the building. If you think that you need more productivity from the people, you have to ensure the health, and green building concept can do that. So as a whole, from the farming to the consumer, whole supply chain can go through this process. It doesn't cost much. If there's a cost, it's coming back in 3 years, which is a good investment. And we are there to give you the information. Like I have some informational leaflet outside. There's all information is free. Everything that any related to information in the green building is free with us. So you can just request it, have a look. If you feel like something that you are interested, we will give you more information to make your decision. Right? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Qasim, what is a nutritious and sustainable diet? And how many people in South Asia would you say can afford this nutritious diet?
So when it comes to nutritious diet, perhaps it's the one which basically provides all the important ingredients or the nutrients required for the upbringing of a kid to grow, and which guards every individual against the malnutrition. So it's basically it can, in other words, it can be called a balanced diet. When it comes to South Asia, perhaps South Asia is the most deprived in terms of the availability or the affordability of the nutritious diet. That's the most important point here. It's affordability. Because the cost of nutritious diet, which has recently been calculated by FAO, World Food Program, and WHO, is roughly $4 per person. And if we go by this definition, roughly 70% of the population, which is 1,330 million people in South Asia, are deprived of the nutritious diet. And if we look into the food basket, which is being consumed by most of the South Asian regions, it is dominated just by one staple. In case of Pakistan, roughly 70% of the total kilocalorie energy is acquired by a person, average person, is through wheat oil. And when it comes to the South Asia, the average is 65%. And the three crops basically takes the lead here. One is the wheat, other is the rice, and then the maize. And these are basically the major source of the diet here. That's not the balanced diet. That's why if you look into the numbers, the number of kids who are basically stunted, it's roughly like 25 million people under 5 are stunted, and 54 million children under the age of 5 are stunted here. And that's the basic reason that neither the mothers, not the parents, and not the kids have the balanced diet available. So this is going to be a bigger challenge in coming days. And in Pakistan, we did one study recently, and we found out that if this problem is not tackled, perhaps it's going to be a big concern in coming days. And that's true for the rest of the South Asian regions and the countries as well.
Thank you. And a follow-up question on that. So what is at stake if the present trends in food waste and loss continue? Sorry.
Thank you. So
Sorry.
this is an interesting question, to be honest. And this is something close to my mind, and people are just coming back from the COP, and some are still there. But if you look into the food waste and loss number, it's again something which is enough to open eyes for everybody. It's 1.3 billion tons of food is wasted annually, which is roughly close to $940 billion loss, which countries incur globally. And if you take the example of Pakistan only in the South Asia region, because I don't have the numbers for the other countries in the region, 36 million tons of food is wasted in Pakistan annually. And this is the situation. If you look into the total global greenhouse gas emission, it contributes roughly 10% of the total greenhouse global emissions from the food which is lost. And if you take the food waste as a country, and if you look into the emissions, perhaps it would be the third biggest emitter after US and European Union. And 1 in 9, this is the situation at the planet where 1 in every 9 people are food insecure, and which means that roughly 700 people can be fed if this food is not lost. And if the quarter of this, just 1/4 of this lost or wasted food is preserved, it is enough to feed the 830 million hungry people on this planet. But there is a good news as well, and this is about the food waste, that if we could reduce the food waste, perhaps we can reduce the almost one third of the greenhouse gas emissions as well.
Thank you. Sanjay, can plant-based foods industry support India's Prime Minister promise for net zero by 2070? What are your thoughts and takes on that?
Yeah, in fact, last year during the COP, when Prime Minister made this commitment that by 2070 we will become net zero, we were taken for a surprise because we thought that India will keep on dragging its feet and will not commit that. But having committed, we cannot keep agriculture out of the focus. It is no more cement, it's no more steel, it's no more power or transportation which are under scrutiny. We are also under scrutiny. But within agriculture, the biggest part which is causing all these greenhouse gas emissions are the animal sources of foods. So you cannot escape that. So that means if the meat is 500 rupees a kilo today, it will become 3,000 rupees a kilo 5 years, 10 years down the line, because the government will start removing the crutches one by one. So the level playing field will happen. So when the level playing field will happen, like just to give you an example, right from the day we came, we are about 79 members today. About 9 months back when we were born, we went and met the minister. We asked him that, will you support her? He said, the Prime Minister has told me to support you. I said, very good. Then he said that my daughter is also a vegan. And third, we told him, sir, we want the level playing field. After a few months, we saw that the 0% duty, which was there on animal sources of food, meat, all that, it became 5%. We are still at 18%. We wanted 18% to go down, not that others' food has become expensive, and we could not even take credit for that because everybody was so angry within the country that our food has become expensive. But this tells you that how the government thinks. Government will not let go of the revenue. So slowly, the support will be provided to plant-based foods. We are fortunate that soybean was and is and will be our major or the biggest source of raw material, because soybean is the only major crop which has got all the 9 amino acids, just like animal sources, whether it is dairy or it is meat, you have all 9 amino acids. Soya also has all 9 amino acids. But meat comes with a lot of load. Like yesterday, some speaker was saying, we ourselves say that don't go in for the red meat, go for chicken. That means there is already 50% admission of guilt that yes, the red meat is not good for health. It is already maybe cholesterol or whatever reasons. But there are some healthy sources of foods. When we combine that with plant-based foods, we mimic the taste of meat. Today, I agree that when we make plant-based chicken, it is not exactly tasting like chicken. So the flexitarians are not eating it today, but the vegetarians are getting hooked onto that. But the fact is that the science is also working. There are Jivadans, there are the Simrise, there are AAK, there are companies like Novozyme. They are working day and out and they are doing research. They are all in the western region. I mean, the number of vegans have gone up from 0.5% to 3%. So all these changes are happening, and India is not laggard. Just like internet, in plant-based foods also, India is not starting late. It is starting quite early. And that's why, because India is also a largely vegetarian population. So we see that while we will go up from 5.5 kilogram meat consumption to 15 kilogram meat consumption, a major proportion of that will be stolen by the plant-based foods. And that would mean that so much of more land degradation will not happen, and that's how we will directly contribute to the Prime Minister's support of net zero by 2070.
All right, we've got 0 seconds left. But one thing I'm going to ask, we've got plenty of questions here. So for those of you who've asked questions, please do reach out to the panelists here and speak one-on-one. In your opinion, how serious is India, how serious is Bangladesh, and how serious is Pakistan? And what message do you want to convey to some of the business individuals here? Those who are skeptics on sustainability. So if you just give like quick overview.
I make it very simple. Sustainability will help you to save money, make more profit. All we ask, please pay attention, know the information, and employ it to your place. Even at your house, you can save money. That is what it is. So in Bangladesh, like our RNG sector association, it's called BGMEA, they have 172 manufacturing factory is LEED certified. And now they call for 80% of the factory by 2030 need to be LEED certified. We are leading by example that yes, it is possible. These all are businessmen. They are not doing it for just certificate. They are doing it because they want to save money. I have a company that I'm working with. They have 19 projects with. They could have one certificate. This project is certified. They don't need 9, but all the building need to be saved money, and it's saving money. So it is possible. All we ask just explore the information and see how it fits. And I guarantee you, it's going to make you more beneficial. Thank you.
So on that note, you can buy U.S. soybeans, pay a little bit more if you think it's too expensive, but have a longer term sustainable product in the end.
I must make one comment on this because I heard that this price of the product cannot be just the face value. You have to see, it's called LCA, that what is the product price, the process, and the end result, and your selling price. Then you know that this price is not high. I see that analysis yesterday. I Google a little bit and I find that you have to do LCA. Like if you buy a product, say 5 taka, lasts for 1 year. Other product is 10 taka, lasts for 5 years. Go for the second product. Simple as that. Do the LCA. Thank you.
But I kind of disagree because statistics show that Generation Z does care about sustainable products. And I myself as a millennial will pay a premium for a chocolate bar that's sourced from that specific country knowing where it's coming from. But again, that's a difference of opinion and it's great to have. Thank you for that last one. Mr. Akasan, please, if you can wrap up.
Just wanted to say here that in Pakistan we don't have the regulatory mechanism available on sustainability, but there is a silver lining. In the absence of any government regulatory mechanisms, 2,600 companies are there. Most of them are national, which are reporting on the sustainability. And that's the good initiative which has been taken by some of the national companies like the Karshi, Hamdard and others. And perhaps this can goes on to other companies which are represented at the different levels here. One thing I would say, and that's the final comment from my side, that the sustainability is not going to jeopardize your profits. It's not going to jeopardize the whole processes and the needs of this generation. But by making your product sustainable and adopting the sustainability as a process, perhaps you are saving the resources for generations to come. And that is the most important thing for us, to think about it and to practice it. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all our panelists. If we can get a round of applause for them.